The King's Avatar, Chapter 1255. Point blank. Audio source, whooshworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1255. Point blank. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Soul Slice. A purple light flashed from Death's hand, sending out several slashes towards the airborne sandbag. Du Ming was startled. He didn't dare wait for the sandbag to arrive and moved his moon-luring frost forward hurriedly to grab it. Even if he couldn't get it, he definitely couldn't let someone from Happy catch it. But no matter his fast his movement speed was, it couldn't compare to his skills. Du Ming looked at Soul Slice's trajectory and made a prediction. Moon-luring frost headed directly towards Soul Slice's direction, but the Soul Slice unexpectedly missed the sandbag. It didn't hit the sandbag pulled by curving windforms. Sword energy didn't pull the sandbag back very fast. For a pro player, hitting a target at such a speed shouldn't be anything difficult. However, Windward Formation's Soul Slice actually missed. Was it a mistake, or was it intentional? Is this mouse broken? Du Ming heard Wei Chen complain. He hastily had moon-luring frost turn around and saw a black shadow leap up faster than he could react. The sandbag disappeared into the air along with this black shadow. Du Ming had moon-luring frost send out a slash in a fluster, but it missed. That black shadow's movements were quick and nimble. After snatching the sandbag, it ran towards Happy's summoner, Concealed Light, who took the sandbag from the spirit cat's mouth. From the system notification, everyone could see that this retrieval was considered effective. Happy had gained another life. Du Ming, who had just fallen for the trick, was both furious and ashamed. Moon-luring frost raised his sword, ready to charge towards Windward Formation. Calm down. It's just a mini-game, Jiang Botao shouted. Yes, it was just a mini-game. It was supposed to be a casual mini-game filled with laughs. But Wei Chen's confidence after Happy picked Samsara was truly quite infuriating. Samsara's 3 players wanted to give this old guy a slap to his face, but from the looks of it, the old guy's skill at this game was deeper than theirs. Who said young people were easier at adapting to new things? Right now, this old guy was relying on his experience, and after just 2 rounds of observation, he had quickly found the trick to this mini-game. Du Ming directly attacked them. Give the sandbag to me and Wu Qi, Jiang Botao decided. It looked like beating Happy purely in a contest of their understanding of this mini-game wouldn't be easy. He decided that they should display Samsara's strength, using attacks to restrict them while using sandbags to kill. Okay. Du Ming welcomed this decision and replied bluntly. On Happy's side, Luo Ji's Concealed Light held onto the sandbag for 3 seconds before throwing it towards a location inconvenient for Samsara. In the meantime, the 3 from Happy began preparing themselves for Samsara's next wave of attacks. But this time, Samsara had clearly calmed down. Jiang Botao and Du Ming positioned themselves to restrict Happy, but they didn't hastily start attacking. They waited for Wu Qi's assassin to pick up the sandbag before calmly searching for an opportunity. Pretend to attack Windward Formation, Jiang Botao commanded. As expected, Samsara's ability to carry out orders was outstanding. Before he even finished his words, Du Ming's moon-luring frost moved towards Windward Formation with a triple slash. Cruel Silence circled around to the side with a sandbag in his hands. Their teamwork was quite steady. Du Ming's moon-luring frost rushed forward, but he didn't attack. He simply stood there in a defensive position, stopping Windward Formation from approaching. Restricting the opponent's movement space meant limiting the opponent's ability to dodge. Forcefully breaking through was an unwise move in this mini-game. The sandbag was an instant kill weapon. It wasn't possible for a defender to win a direct fight against an attacker. Sure enough, Wei Chen didn't make this unwise move. As soon as he saw moon-luring frost block his path forward, he immediately turned. Cruel silence had reached his side, but Wei Chen acted like he didn't see him. Is he baiting us again? Jiang Botao observed Happy's movements. His empty waves was also shrinking their movement space, coordinating with Cruel silence to continue pressuring Windward Formation. However, these were all facades. From the very start, Jiang Botao had indicated that this was a fake-out, acting as cover for their true target. As for who this true target was, Jiang Botao still hadn't decided. Perhaps it was in fact Windward Formation. Everything depended on how Happy reacted to their pressure. Press forward. Jiang Botao ordered again. Du Ming's moon-luring frost directly launched an attack at Windward Formation. As expected, as the defender, Wei Chen wasn't willing to get into a tangle with the attacker. Windward Formation retreated again. You punks, what are you doing, chasing relentlessly after this senior? Wei Chen had Windward Formation dodge as he spouted trash talk. It's all because senior is too threatening. Jiang Botao said. You baby, you really know how to talk. Ha. Wei Chen once again praised Jiang Botao. Last time, Jiang Botao responded with a merciless attack. What about this time? This time, there was none. Jiang Botao suddenly turned diagonally. Empty waves had originally been trying to block Windward Formation's retreat path, but this sudden turn completely changed his intent. Ice Wave soared. This skill could not be ignored. An ice wave swept over murderously. Its target, concealed light. Good kid. So you were threatening the east to attack the west. Wei Chen shouted. Windward Formation turned around to try and rescue concealed light, but Du Ming's moon-luring frost stopped him. He didn't attack. He simply cut off the path between Windward Formation and concealed light. Cruel silence suddenly sped up. WuxaWorldAudio.com. He sent out a Xingcut and activated swift movement. In an instant, the distance between himself and concealed light closed. Then, Shadow Clone Technique. This instant movement ninja skill was a skill practically every Nightwalker class learned. For the final stretch of Cruel Silence's dash, he used this skill to instantly appear in front of concealed light. This sudden acceleration had caught Luoji unprepared last time, and this time was no different. He had just dodged Empty Wave's ice wave sword and didn't expect an assassin to suddenly appear before him in the blink of an eye with a sandbag ready. At point blank, how could this sandbag be dodged? It was impossible. Hit. Cruel Silence's sandbag hit concealed light, instantly wiping out the extra life that they had just earned not long ago. As the sandbag fell, Luoji wanted concealed light to hurry and get away, but this time, Jiang Botao had predicted his intentions. In this sandbag minigame, whether the defenders caught it or the defenders were hit, the attacker's offense would be interrupted. Thus, just thinking about striking the target wasn't enough. Apart from hitting the target, the attackers need to consider how to reach the next step in their offense. After hitting concealed light, the sandbag was caught in his hands before it fell to the ground. Concealed light tried to run, but he was blocked by empty waves. By the time he tried moving in a different direction, he was too late. Cruel Silence once again threw the sandbag at point-blank range. Concealed light was hit once again and was cleanly knocked off the stage this time. Fast. Everything had happened too fast. Wei Chen and Steamed Bun didn't have time to respond before concealed light was eliminated. Just this minigame alone showed just terrifying the champion team's explosiveness was. However, the offense from Samsara wasn't done yet. 2 point-blank sandbags and Cruel Silence caught both of them before they fell to the ground. Du Ming's moon-luring frost ran towards Windward Formation. Wei Chen immediately realized what he wanted to do, but facing this sort of charge the defenders seemed powerless. They couldn't stop to fight with their opponents. Their only choice was to run away and dodge. Windward Formation sprinted back, but moon-luring frost pursued him faster, closing in with a triple slash. Cruel Silence then passed his sandbag to moon-luring frost. Shadow steps. Moon-luring frost didn't immediately throw his sandbag, instead using shadow steps. 5 moon-luring frosts instantly flickered into existence, each holding a sandbag. Without pausing, not giving Wei Chen any time to figure out which one was real, the 5 moon-luring frosts threw their sandbags at the same time. "That's too shameless!" Wei Chen cried out in grief. The 5 sandbags flew at him, sealing off all of Windward Formation's escape options. Of the 5, 4 were fake, but Wei Chen didn't know which one was real, so he could only pray. Left. Windward Formation stepped to the left. A sandbag hit him but disappeared. Wei Chen let out a sigh of relief. However, it wasn't over yet. While he was figuring out if the sandbag that hit him was real or fake, moon-luring frost acted again. A sword light flashed out, sword draw, aimed towards the previously thrown sandbag. Du Ming obviously knew which of the sandbags was real. The sword draw didn't slice apart the sandbag. It carried the sandbag along with it towards Windward Formation. Punk. How crafty. Wei Chen sighed. The sandbag was considered a throw too, and Windward Formation was eliminated. The closely linked attacks knocked out 2 of Happy's players in the blink of an eye. The crowd was dumbstruck. Even Steamed Bun was having trouble keeping up. "What's going on? How'd you guys suddenly disappear?" Steamed Bun was puzzled as he looked at the eliminated Windward Formation and concealed light. Chance. Jiang Botao shouted. Du Ming's moon-luring frost shot forward. He picked up a sandbag and twisted his body, throwing the sandbag like a meteor towards Steamed Bun Invasion, who was looking away. Pie. The sandbag was stopped. A brick had crashed into the sandbag, swatting it down. Du Ming was dumbfounded. He hadn't thought Steamed Bun would suddenly regain his senses and then throw a brick that actually intercepted the meteor-like sandbag. "This is no fun," Steamed Bun said. "Why don't we have a real fight?" End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1256. A class composition fit for dodgeball. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1256. A class composition fit for dodgeball. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. A real fight. Jiang Botao laughed. 1v3 US. That's going to be very difficult. Bring it on. Steamed Bun yelled. Vice Captain, he's stalling for time. Du Ming saw that Jiang Botao seemed to want to play along with this guy, so he hastily gave him a reminder. This match is just for fun. Why worry so much? Let's just play with him. Could it be you think it'll take us a long time to beat him 3v1? Jiang Botao asked. Of course not. Du Ming's spirits rose. Let's go. Wu Qi called out. His cruel silence rushed out. We're coming. Jiang Botao said. I've been waiting for a long time now, Steamed Bun said calmly. For a moment, the brawler Steamed Bun Invasion had the faint aura of a great scholar around him. Facing a 1v3, he didn't back down a single step and stood his ground proudly. But in the next moment, Steamed Bun Invasion was lying flat on the ground. He had turned into a corpse that was on his way out of the stage. Everyone's mouths were wide open. They couldn't understand what was going on in Bao Rongxing's mind. Why would he disgrace himself? They just couldn't understand. Is he stupid? Everyone thought so. What a pity, I lost. Steamed Bun was very upset. Did you actually think you could win? Luoji couldn't help but ask, "Whether I lose or win, as long as I fight bravely, I'll never have any regrets." Steamed Bun said, "Can someone take care of him?" Luoji seemed to be possessed by Mo Fan, his face expressionless. "Alright, next up, it's our turn to attack. We're gonna fight fast and end this fast," Wei Chen said to his two juniors. "Fight!" Steamed Bun shouted. Luoji. The attackers and defenders switched roles. Happy on the offense, Samsara on the defense. The opening was the same. It was just that this time, the ones standing at the corners of the triangle were Happy's three characters. The sandbag was in Windward Formation's hand. "If we keep catching sandbags endlessly, won't this game go on forever?" Du Ming said. "We just need to beat their time." Wu Qi said. "We can do it," Jiang Botao said. Even though they didn't really care too much, it was still better to be the winner than the loser. The match started. Jiang Botao immediately spun 360 degrees, observing Happy's movements. The three from Happy were moving into offensive positions. Samsara also moved while paying attention to Windward Formation's sandbag. Wei Chen was cunning. They had personally experienced it. With the sandbag in his hands, they felt like he definitely had a surprise waiting for them. "Watch me!" Wei Chen suddenly roared and swung his arms. Samsara immediately dodged, but the sandbag wasn't thrown towards them. "This again," Du Ming said. He turned around and saw the sandbag in Steamed Bun Invasion's hands. However, Steamed Bun Invasion wasn't in a good attacking position. Was he going to pass again? Samsara moved wary of Happy's next pass. But there was no pass. The sandbag fell into Steamed Bun Invasion's hands, and then Happy's three characters gathered together. What are they doing? Jiang Botao couldn't understand. In this minigame, the attacking side carried more threat when they split apart and formed links with each other. If all three attackers crowded together, what was the difference between 3 people and 1? Could they be planning on charging at us together? Just when they were thinking this, Windward Formation and Concealed Light started casting. Concealed Light summoned creatures, while Windward Formation cast Death's Door. No one had ever heard of someone casting such a slow skill out in the open like this. However, the threat of Death's Door was truly huge. Samsara couldn't ignore it. Jiang Botao's empty waves rushed forward. He swung his sword, sending out an earth wave sword in an attempt to interrupt Windward Formation. But then, Steamed Bun Invasion jumped out from the side, blocking this earth wave sword. The attack obviously dealt damage, but Steamed Bun Invasion didn't seem to care. He held the sandbag in his left hand and a brick in his right hand as he sprinted madly towards empty waves. Jiang Botao could only choose to run away. Who would dare to fight against someone who possessed the ultimate killing weapon, the sandbag? But Windward Formation's Death's Hand had to be interrupted. Jiang Botao was being chased by Steamed Bun, so he had no chance to. He could only give the task to Du Ming and Wu Qi. However, by this time, Concealed Light had summoned quite a few creatures. His summons didn't rush out, instead providing cover for Windward Formation. Jiang Botao suddenly realized the problem. At the same time, he also realized that in this mini-game, some classes had advantages over others. For example, Blade Masters and Assassins, 2 classes with powerful offensive capabilities, lost a lot of their threat in this mini-game. No matter how strong your attacks are, how could they compare to an instant kill weapon? The biggest threats in this mini-game were control skills. Warlocks were control experts, and summoners who summoned creatures on the field were also very troublesome. His summons took up space, reducing the amount of room for the defenders to maneuver around, and this space was needed for defenders to dodge the sandbags. a warlock and a summoner. Jiang Botao discovered that these two classes were most effective at exploiting the instant-kill sandbags. Not good. Jiang Botao already had a bad feeling. Even though Du Ming's and Wu Qi's efforts forced Windward Formation to give up his death's door, it also lured the two into the summon's encirclement. Kill, kill, kill. Sword and dagger danced in the air. Du Ming also realized that the situation was looking very bad, so he directly used the high-level skill, Formless Phantom Blade. Sword Light quickly cut down the summons in a flurry. However, Concealed Light was constantly summoning more, not caring at all about his mana or his skill cooldowns because this wasn't a normal fight. As the attackers, they had instant kill weapons. As long as they had a single opening, they could instantly kill the opponent. Using Formless Phantom Blade in this situation, this decision was a bit careless. A high-level skill like Formless Phantom Blade had a long ending lag, a large opening for the attackers to take advantage of. In this minigame, an opening like this could be fatal. But the skill had already been used, and it was too late for Jiang Botao to warn him. He could only watch as Moon-Luring Frost slaughter the area around him, and then when the final slash came out, Moon-Luring Frost became stuck in ending lag. Steamed Bun leaped out at this moment. Jiang Botao predicted this would happen, but there was nothing he could do to stop him. As for Wu Qi was helpless too because Windward Formation was fighting him. A warlock's control skills could not be ignored in this minigame. The sandbag easily hit Moon-Luring Frost. Everyone could only watch helplessly. Moon-Luring Frost was eliminated. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Concealed Light's army of summons started swarming around Wu Qi's Cruel Silence. The sandbag that fell to the ground was also picked up by him and soon passed over to Steamed Bun Invasion. Jiang Botao clearly understood Happy's strategy now. A warlock with control skills, a summoner with summons, and a brawler with the sandbag. All three characters were major threats, which could not be said for Samsara. He could throw out an Earthwave sword, but Steamed Bun could just directly take the attack. On the other hand, if a warlock's binding curse or control curse came his way, he didn't dare eat it. The threat that all three members of Happy possessed when attacking was something that Samsara's three couldn't achieve. If it was real fight like Steamed Bun said, Samsara might have the advantage, but in this minigame, Jiang Botao felt powerless when it was Happy's turn to attack. Cruel Silence was trapped by the army of summons. Then, Windward Formation used a control curse to CC him. Jiang Botao was being chased by Steamed Bun and couldn't save him. As soon as Steamed Bun saw that a target had been CC'd, Steamed Bun Invasion's sandbag was thrown. Cruel Silence was unable to move due to Windward Formation's control curse, and the sandbag hit him square in the forehead. Two Samsara players had been eliminated. Happy's offense wasn't as fast and nimble as Samsara's, but it made the defending side feel completely powerless. Jiang Botao checked the time. There was already no hope of winning. How about a real fight? Quote, he laughed, learning from Steamed Bun last round. Sure. Steamed Bun jumped out. Okay, Steamed Bun, hand me the sandbag. Go. Wei Chen said. Jiang Botao's heart thumped. Why did he feel like this arrangement didn't seem safe? Relax. Wei Chen said. I'll definitely sneak attack you. Jiang Botao was speechless. The guy wasn't even trying to hide his intentions. Steamed Bun Invasion charged forward and started fighting with Jiang Botao's Spellblade. Sure enough, Wei Chen kept his promise. Windward Formation was on the side, constantly harassing Jiang Botao. When an opportunity arrived where the attack couldn't be dodged, he threw the sandbag along with a skill. Okay, go die. Wei Chen said. The sandbag hit, and Jiang Botao was eliminated. In the end, Happy used less time, so they won. Samsara's win streak has finally ended. Wei Chen exclaimed delightedly. Senior, you really? Jiang Botao forced a smile. He was an expert at talking to others, but he didn't know what to say right now. The first round of hot-blooded dodgeball finished, and the four teams once again drew ballots for their next opponent. Just like Jiang Botao realized, in this mini-game, Happy's class composition held an overwhelming advantage. The other pro teams, Tiny Herb and Miracle, couldn't compete. Happy won the next two rounds easily and ended up as the winners of hot-blooded dodgeball. Champions. Wei Chen declared loudly. Do we get a trophy? Steamed Bun asked the host excitedly. I don't think so. The host was sweating. It was just a mini-game. A trophy? If there's no trophy, then a medal? Steamed Bun asked. I don't think so either. Prize? Steamed Bun was still asking. That. Thank you to our 9 audience members, and thank you to the 15 players from our 5 pro teams for giving us a wonderful performance. Thank you. The host took the lead and applauded, sheering away Happy down from the stage. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1257. Things remain, but the people change. Audio source, wushaworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1257, Things Remain, but the People Change. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. The hot-blooded dodgeball competition came to a close. There were a lot of participants, and the elimination was turn by turn, so this one minigame replaced the 3 mini-games of previous All-Stars. However, having just this one event would have been somewhat monotonous, so afterwards there was also a 3-leg race event. It could be seen from this that Tyranny, hosting this year's All-Stars, wanted to emphasize the subject of teamwork. Whether it was hot-blooded dodgeball or 3-legged race, they all required exceptional teamwork and cooperation. However, the famed all-star pairings with which everyone was familiar still didn't appear in these mini-games. Everyone knew that this excitement would be left until the final day. As they watched these fun events, the anticipation for Day 3 only grew. After the 3-legged race was the player versus pro event, in which the hosting team would send out a pro player to accept challenges from the crowd. Tyranny sent out a player that had only just appeared in their roster last season, an older rookie, Shin Mayun. This older rookie who fought alongside Tyranny's 4 Heavenly Kings used to have a very faint presence. It wasn't until the playoffs that people realized that this player also had unusual battle ability. His presence was faint only because his use on the battlefield wasn't easily captured in summary statistics. This expert at positioning used his position to contain or restrict his opponents, which couldn't be recorded in statistics. Shin Mayun took his place, Tyranny's captain Han when King went on stage to select the players. There were many Tyranny fans in the crowd, so of course this was a very exciting thing. Shin Mayun's victories were of course guaranteed. But for the ordinary players that lost, their heads were filled with fog. During battle, they had all experienced an indescribable feeling of being bound. What was up with that? None of them understood. Shin Mayun's play style, which relied on positioning to launch offensives, was so high level that it far surpassed what ordinary players could recognize. They might know that something like this was going on, but in real battle, they couldn't detect the intentions of each movement of Shin Mayun's -9 degrees. Such an outstanding player, how was he discovered so late? Blue Rain's captain Yuan Zhu mused. He wasn't the only pro player with such thoughts. All of the teams were discussing Shin Mayun's performance. Even when fighting ordinary players, his style was fully apparent. For the pros, once they understood where Shin Mayun's talents lay, it was easier to grasp his plans on the field. But even though that was the case, if their attention wavered just a bit, they could still overlook him. Suppression that relied on positioning. There was the feeling of some silent drowning. Shin Moon had already earned a lot of attention, but his presence on the battlefield was still as faint as ever. The lucky audience members happily walked on stage, walked off stage in a daze, and day 2 of the All-Star Weekend came to a close. The audience members left in satisfaction, and began to anticipate day 3 of All-Stars, and the event that was the highlight of the weekend, the All-Star Competition. What would the teams be? Which players would they see fight side by side? Which players would they see clash? Any kind of dream team or dream confrontation could become reality in the All-Star Weekend. Carrying their hopes, everyone welcomed the arrival of Day 3 of All-Stars. The atmosphere was extremely raucous. Everyone was swept along by the excitement. The host was clearly aware of the crowd's mood, so he didn't try to tease everyone's appetite. One by one, the 24 All-Star players were introduced and welcomed on stage. The excited crowd gave their cheers and shouts to all of the All-Stars. Of course, the ones who earned the loudest cheers were the players of Tyranny. When Captain Han Wenking went on stage, the cheers were like the roaring of a tsunami wave. It was difficult to believe that this player had only been ranked 12th this year for All-Stars. The power of the home stadium made it seem like Han Wenking was the #1 superstar of Glory. From this, it could be seen that although Han Wenking's total popularity had decreased greatly in Tyranny, he was still the immovable #1. Opposite to everyone else was Yi Xiu. When he appeared, the Tyranny fans sent him not applause but merciless booing. This was the All-Star stage, not Tyranny's home game, so this sort of behavior was rather rude. But there was nothing that could be done. The hatred that Tyranny fans had toward Yi Xiu simply ran too deep. Last season, when there had been neither Yi Xiu nor Excellent Era, the Tyranny fans had really been a little lonely. No matter how strong Samsara was, even if they defeated Tyranny in the end, in the eyes of the fans they still weren't the biggest enemy. The arch-enemy was still Excellent Era, was still Yi Xiu. Excellent Era was no longer here, but Yi Xiu had returned, so the hate was more focused. Tyranny's fans would never conceal their emotions. The setting didn't matter. If they saw Yi Xiu, they booed. This was law, iron law. Among the 24 players, only Yi Xiu received such a brutal treatment. Although Su Mucheng was also from Excellent Era, the grudge that Tyranny had toward Excellent Era and Yi Xiu stemmed from the very beginning, with Excellent Era's 3 consecutive championship wins. Su Mucheng joined Excellent Era the year that Tyranny finally defeated Excellent Era, when their spirits were high. So, subtly, they didn't have much negative feeling toward Su Mucheng, since she had joined when Tyranny came to victory. All of the aggro was focused on Yi Xiu alone. The other players all had their own feelings as they watched this person receive a completely different treatment than the rest of them. This person had left the pro circle for a year and a half, and then he returned, and then he immediately stood on this stage that symbolized the very pinnacle of Glory players. Aside from Zhou Zekai, not a single player was more popular than him. This was indeed a powerful comeback. Yi Xiu also looked at everyone on this stage. After leaving for a year and a half, the array of faces before him had gained some unfamiliar, and lost some familiar. Of the opponents that had tangled with him for many years now, many of them had already left. Some were gone for good, others were currently sitting off stage. Zhang Jiale, Lin Jingyan, Sun Zheping. And those that might be sitting in front of their televisions right now, Zhao Yang, Deng Fusheng. Perhaps they would never stand on this most beautiful stage again. And what about himself? How much longer could he himself stand here? Looking at Han Wenqing, Yishu had mixed feelings. Standing on this stage now, there was now no longer a single player that had debuted in Season 2. But the two of them Season 1 debuts still stubbornly clung to their places here. Him at number 2. Han Wenqing at number 12. Not bad, Yishu thought. But looking at the top 10 All-Stars, the presence of the new generation was only growing stronger and stronger. Zhou Zekai from Season 5 comfortably held the spot of number 1, while Jiang Botao and Yufeng from Season 6, along with Sun Xiang and Tang Hao from Season 7, were all in the top 10. Aside from him, there were 3 players from the famed Season 4 Golden Generation. Then, it was just Wang Jiexi from Season 3. There weren't too many left from Season 3, either. Yishu counted, and realized that of the players from Season 3, aside from Wang Jiexi, there was only Yang Kong. And this time he was ranked 24th, barely catching the last train. Behind him, a crowd of newer players were eyeing this position. Perhaps as soon as next year, he would vanish from this leaderboard. Things remain, but the people change. Seeing all of these new young faces before him, Yishu couldn't help but feel the vicissitudes of life. WuxRWorldAudio.com. The on-stage host was currently interviewing one by one the players that came on stage, and finally it was Yishu's turn. Yishu made a strong comeback this year, coming onto this stage at second place. What your current feelings? The host was even more excited than Yishu as he posed this question. Oh, I'm used to this, Yishu said. Don't even mention the crowd. Even some of the other all-star players on stage booed at Yishu. The host also hesitated for a moment before continuing his questions. Does Yishu have anyone he's looking forward to partnering with or fighting against? Yishu glanced at the other 20-plus players, and continued to respond calmly. I don't really care. Yishu is really extremely calm, the host said. Because I'm used to this, Yishu said. His words came back to the same point. The host could only helplessly proceed to the next player. The one after Yishu was of course Zhou Zekai. The interviews proceed in order according to the All-Star rankings. Little Zhou once again was voted to number 1 in the All-Star rankings. What your current feelings? The host didn't refer to Zhou Zekai as God, but as Little Zhou, evoking a feeling of familiarity. Does he even need to say? He's also used to this. Quote, while Zhou Zekai was still pondering how to respond, Yishu already helped him answer. Zhou Zekai looked at Yishu blankly, and in the end didn't say anything. This. The host felt awkward. Maybe Zhou Zekai really was used to it, but only you would say it directly with that kind of attitude. Zhou Zekai didn't look like he was about to say anything more. So the host could only continue to the next question, still the same one that had been repeated many times already. Little Zhou, do you have any players you're looking forward to partnering with? Partner with who? Samsara sent 4 players here. Are you going to split them up? Yishu said. Can you stop talking? The host nobly suppressed the urge to blow up at him. Oh, you guys chat, said Yishu. Chat? What chat? Who could chat with Zhou Zekai? The host held the microphone and looked at Zhou Zekai. Seeing that after a very long pause he still didn't move his mouth, the host quickly repeated the question. Have you thought it through? Who are you hoping to partner with? Zhou Zekai finally opened his mouth. Our team has 4. Yishu laughed like crazy. Gritting his teeth, the host ultimately restrained himself and didn't ask any more questions. Originally, the number 2 and number 1 should have had longer interviews, as befit their higher popularity. But now, alright, now let us see the teams for this year's All-Star competition, the host said, his face expressionless. End chapter.